Hey everyone, Ryan Rubino here. What I want to talk about today is data platforms, and more specifically data platforms for value-based care. And I think the underlying question is, what is included in a data platform? And the thing that they're trying to answer is it something that we can do on our own? Do we need to buy something? Is it a single vendor solution? Is it a multi-vendor solution? But really behind all of that is just, what is a data platform? What does this include, and what are the components of it? And that's what I'm going to talk through today at a very high level. What are those key components and high-level components associated with a data platform? And what are some of the key things to consider as you're thinking about this? So, first and foremost, you need to think about a connectivity layer. And really where this should start is, what are those business use cases that you need to support? And that's going to dictate what data sources that you want to include, what data types and fields you need to pull in, but then also how much data do you need? And the how much part is going to potentially dictate the approach that you have for pulling this data out. So, for example, Arcadia manages literally petabytes of data on behalf of our customers, just massive, massive amounts of data. And to do that, it might take multiple days to load an historical data set in as an efficient a way as we can possibly do. And then we need to put in an incremental approach to update that data on a nightly or real-time basis, depending upon the use case. And each of these data sources is a snowflake. It's a little bit different. So at Arcadia, we've connected over 2,600 EHR and claims data sources that are actively maintained for our customers, meaning we've done it a lot, and we can likely do it much more efficiently than someone else that's trying to figure this out on their own. The next piece of the puzzle is that we need to bring these different streams of data into a data lake. And this is really kind of the initial central repository for all of these different data types. And the terms data lake, data warehouse, data mart, I think that they can get kind of confused sometimes, but either confused or the definitions are just a little squishy. But my thinking about what a data lake is it's pretty raw. It's just bringing everything into one location that then you can go and refine it and do additional things with it after that. But it's not really ready for meaningful analytics in any way. So the next step of the process is related to analytics and enrichment. And how do we make sense of all of that data that's floating around in that data lake? So for Arcadia, this includes things like quality measurement calculation. We have over 1,000 quality measures that are actively managed and maintained and updated annually. Risk adjustment, risk suspecting, analytics for cost and utilization, and then predictive analytics as well. How do you identify patients and members for appropriate intervention-based care management programs? And all of that is a ton of work. And how much of it do you want to try to do on your own? Do you want to try to farm any of it out? Are you looking at a single vendor solution, multi-vendor solution? But you need to understand the business use cases that you're looking to achieve, and then what is all that you need to do to actually enrich that data and prepare it for those use cases. So once you've done all of that analytics and enrichment, we really need to prepare that data and make it available to analysts and end users. And that's where a data warehouse comes into play. And I think the title and the name is indicative of kind of what you want. You have this massive amount of data, and you want it organized in a way that's very efficient to go and pull whatever you need. So I think the other thing to think about, if you have an initiative and you're saying, all right, we're going to build a data warehouse, to really make sure you know what you're going to get. Are you going to get a data warehouse that's kind of optimized for what you need to do? Or are you going to get a data lake that's messy to work with and causes other downstream issues that I'll touch on a little bit in a couple of minutes? So once we have data in that data warehouse, how are we actually accessing it and using it? And for most of our customers, a lot of times that starts with analysts just pounding on that data warehouse with some kind of preliminary questions of that data. But eventually, once you know that there's something that you want to be able to answer very easily on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, whatever that might mean, or to report out, that's where you're going to design and create a report or a business intelligence dashboard or something to that effect. And I think for an organization looking to do this on their own, that process often can take 6 to 12 months to build out a dashboard. And, I don't know, whether it's for readmissions or risk adjustment or EDUs or whatever the domain is, typically you need to get an analyst, sit down in a room with a provider or another administrative leader, and they'll go through this iterative process of building this out. The other thing to consider is, how does this tie into the rest of the kind of downstream or upstream nature of your data pipeline? And how much logic is getting baked into those end state reports? And what I mean by this is that, sometimes people will build something, someone requests another field or another view or whatever it might be, and that analyst has to figure out how to do it. And rather than go rebuild the whole data pipeline, they just go and they grab a field from your lake or your connectivity layer to make this thing work. Or they add a bit of logic, another group or another mapping into that particular report or dashboard. And over time, there's a big tax to be paid with it. It can cause for a lot of inconsistencies across different reports. It makes things much less resilient. It makes things less scalable. It makes you more prone to have things break over time. And that's just another challenge that you got to cope with. So you take the alternative that if you worked with an organization like Arcadia, that we have an expansive library of reports and dashboards that are available out of the box. Probably far more expansive than you would ever be able to create on your own. Can you use that as your starting point and then build those additional views that are very specific to your organization, and use your analysts and your resources to really focus on those activities that are going to add the most value in your particular organization. So the needs for applications and integrations, in large part, are very similar to what you kind of need and want for your reports and business intelligence use cases, but it really ups the ante. So you're now dealing with perhaps point of care integration with your physician workflows or patient outreach capabilities or care management workflows. And the closer you are to the patients, it means that the quality of that data, the performance that's associated with this data platform, everything has to work that much better. Otherwise, your teams will just not use the tools if they aren't functioning right, or the data quality isn't there. They won't use them, and that's where a lot of these where you see a lot of failed implementations as well. So to sum this all up, there are a lot of considerations if you're thinking about putting a data platform in place. And I think if you're thinking about that build versus buy type question, are you going to take on some components of this, all components of this? If you're looking to vendors, are you looking for point solutions that are just a piece of the puzzle? Or are you looking at a complete solution that encompasses all of these capabilities? And I think that's part of the value that Arcadia brings to the market, is that we do have a platform that's made available for value-based care analytics. You got one throat to choke if something's not working properly, but more important than that, our whole tech stack has been designed for these business use cases that are in mind, and has been pressure tested by a lot of customers. So just increases the likelihood of your success with the initiatives that you're working on. So if you made it this far in the video, thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think. I'm really curious to hear what you think I got right, what you think I got wrong, if you think there are other key considerations that we should throw out there for people to think about. But thanks a lot for listening, and have a great day.